Hello. All right, my name is Sigurd and I want to show you how I've deployed my evacuation app on Google Cloud. So the first thing is that I want to create a Docker file for the backend. One was already created for the Docker Compose to work, but I've just manipulated this a bit to include some environment uh, strings that it needs. So for example, the connection string to the MongoDB and the Redis URI and stuff. And once I have this, I can go to Google Cloud. You can see I've just created a simple project called Cloud, and it has the project ID Cloud 371617. And in order to deploy something to Cloud, I chose to do Cloud Run. And in here, I can just create a new service, which I have done. I've created one called Backend, and then I can actually um, build and deploy this from my command line. So if we go in here, you can see I have this command, which works if we have downloaded the Google command line tool to deploy for cloud. So the first thing here is that I want to build a Docker file as an image. I give it a tag. This is the project ID, and then this is what I want to call it. And once I've built this, I'm not going to do it here because I've already done it and it takes a long time to build. Once I've built this, it would be on my cloud server, and then I can simply use this command, the run command, and this deploys set image, the one I built. You can see this is the same tag as we used earlier. And then that's actually deploys the backend here in Google Cloud Run. And then we can see we have the URL where we can access it. And if I go in here, we just get the cannot get because it's the backend. It's not really supposed to be open. And this URL then I have to take and I have to put into the front end because the front end has an Nginx file in order to find the server name for some routing. Then you can see I have the server name here and it's just pasted right in here. And this means that the front end, once I deploy that using the same method as I did with the backend, then the front end should be able to communicate with this backend, which is hosted on the cloud. And of course, I do this using the same two commands. I want to build it up there. I just call it front end here, where the other one would be called backend. And then I deploy it. And again, the other one was supposed to be called backend. This is supposed to be called front end. And then that also throws that up. So once I've done that, you can see that I have two services. I would have backend and front end here. I also have a backend v2 because I made some mistakes building the first front end and then I haven't put it down yet. So the front end v2 is the one that actually works and connects to the backend. And you can see this if I go in here, you can actually see here that I have a URL, and this is hosted on the Europe North server in Google Cloud. If I access this, you can see I have access to the Cloud app. I click next. I've already enabled location and camera. I can send. And then you can see the app is actually functioning and it is actually communicating with the backend. So this works. Another thing you can see that's very interesting about Google Cloud Run is that um, you can have 0 active containers spun up. At this point, I should have 1. It's not really updated right now because I'm using it, but and then it can have some idle. So the smart thing about this is that Google Cloud Run actually only spins up containers if you need it, which means you won't have to spin up a container that isn't needed by anyone, which means you don't have to pay for a container which isn't used currently. Now, usually it takes a little while to spin up an active container, so it's a good idea to have some idle containers so you can configure this to have, let's say, at least one idle container up, meaning that one container is always ready to receive traffic. And another neat thing about this is that This is kind of built Kubernetes native under the hood. And if a lot of people are trying to reach the front end or the back end, Google Cloud Run will simply spin up more containers, just like in Kubernetes, to make the scaling automatic. And that's basically how my service is hosted on Google Cloud. I just used Google Cloud Run and the CLI tool.